Hey, this is John Lee Dumas, the founder and host of Entrepreneurs on Fire. And if you're wanting to learn how to embrace change and navigate through disruption as a leader, then listen to the Leadership is Changing podcast with my good friend, Denis. He's prepared to ignite.
Welcome to Leadership is Changing. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change. This is taking your leadership to another level by finding the balance between executive excellence and personal well-being through stories that inspire real change. It's time to adapt in our fast-moving world when leadership is changing with your host, Denis.
Hey, welcome to the show, Leadership is Changing. What we as leaders know to be true is that change is constant. Leaders everywhere confront similar obstacles because people are people, but everywhere you go, leaders are overwhelmed, disrupted, and under pressure. They run from email to email, meeting to meeting. Many leaders are not changing quick enough, which means they run the risk of becoming irrelevant and being left behind. Perhaps the show is taking our listeners' leadership to another level by finding their balance between executive excellence and personal well-being through stories that inspire real change. I believe we don't have enough effective leaders in the world today, and if we can get the leaders to step up and lead change, then they can inspire real change. Hey listeners, it's now time to adapt in our fast-moving world. Welcome to the Ask Denis episode, which is a freestyle episode that I do once a week. I also do 2 interviews with different leaders around the world where I interview them and have a lot of fun and talking about leadership is changing. So welcome to today's session. This is where I'm asked a question by our listeners, or I share my thoughts, insights, and experiences from working with many leaders around the globe. Today's topic is, how do I develop myself as a leader? A very interesting one because I'm being asked this quite a bit of late, and there's been really interesting questions coming from various people. As the world starts to open up after the pandemic for the last 2 years, people have been developing themselves, have been upskilling themselves around different capabilities and around different skills. But now, as leaders are coming back and bringing their teams back, they're wanting to know more about how they can develop themselves for the future. Now, there's various things that you can do to work on to develop yourself as a leader, and I'm going to step you through some things very soon. But as I do that, I'm going to encourage you to take notes, but I'm also going to encourage you to start thinking about what does it mean for you as a leader. Now, you could be a frontline leader right through to an executive. It doesn't matter because you never stop learning, and we always need to keep developing ourselves to stay ahead of the curve. My first point I'll be saying to you is this: never wait for others to develop you, because it's not going to happen. An employer may provide some training for you, but you know what? The way I look at it, that's just cream on top. Never wait, always do it yourself. I've never waited for the organizations that I've worked for to develop Denis or develop me. I've gone off and done that on my own back or own coin, if I can put it that way. Over the last few years, I've invested over $150,000 into myself. That's with coaches and mentors, different books that I've been reading. In the older days, might have been tapes, but of late, it's more about audio stuff that I've been listening to, memberships that I belong to, podcasts that I listen to, articles through membership sites like Harvard Business Review, and different events that I've been to around the globe with different speakers and different training and so forth. You see, I always take the attitude of that you need to take control. Think about where you can do today to help you develop you in your leadership journey. Once again, never wait for anyone else. Just think about what you need to do and what's right for you. One thing you could do is to step back and think about these 3 things. That is, where are you today in your career around as a leader? In other words, that's the current reality. Number 2 is, where do you want to go? In other words, what's the big picture or the end picture, the future reality for you? Because you see, the thing here is that if we understand where you want to go, where you are now, there comes along the 3rd thing, which is, well, understand what the gaps are. And if you can understand what your gaps are, then you can actually pull together an action plan and go out there and help close those gaps. Always take control, as I said, because you see, the thing is, it's about you and about where you are going in your career going forward. When you address the gaps, it's really important that we do that. I work with coaching clients and teams where I do some executive team coaching and so forth, and I actually help them through this. I actually understand where they are as a team, as an example, where they want to go to as a team, whether it be over the next 6 months to a year, 2 years, but also what are the gaps, and we can understand what's going on there, and we can pull different programs, initiatives, and so forth together to help them do that. I remember personally where I was actually at a level in a role in my career, and I wanted to really take this other role and go on and do something a little bit bigger. And so I had actually engaged a coach for myself, and we talked about it, and we talked about where I was today, but really where I wanted to go. But it actually was bigger roles than that I really actually wanted to do. But the next stepping stone was this other role. And for that role and for me to do it, there were certain things I had to be doing. Yes, I was doing quite a bit of it already, but there may have been some gaps, and there were some gaps. And so what we needed to do was identify those gaps, and my coach and I then came up with a plan and what I needed to do to close those gaps. Now, this is also relevant for not just people in large organizations, but also medium-sized organizations, small businesses, entrepreneurs, athletes, anybody. If you've got a goal, understand where you are today, understand where you want to go, and then understand there are going to be some gaps, and then pull a plan together to help close those gaps. And so that's what you need to do if you actually want to develop yourself as a leader. An action plan is important, but the implementation is going to be even just as important, if not more. Why? Because you can have the plans as many as you like, but until you actually bring them to life and do something with them, they're not going to really mean much, are they? So I'm going to encourage you also to stay ahead of the curve in the industry. Understand what's happening in the marketplace for your industry or the industry that you want to move into. And there's ways that you can do that. And I'm going to just go through and give you about 8 of those different areas as I walk through that today. Number 1 would be around podcasts. Congratulations. You can tick that one off now because you're listening to this episode, of course. But I would actually identify 2 or 3 different podcasts that you would want to actually learn or listen to learn around different genre. In other words, it could be all sorts of things that you're wanting to do. But depending on where you are, what your goals are, then understand what those 2 or 3 podcasts are that you want to listen to on a regular basis. The second thing would be around articles, white papers. Research your topics, those gaps that you have. Look at the Harvard Business Review, Forbes. There's a whole lot of other organizations or magazines and articles being written out there, business papers that you can read and understand, because they're going to help you stay ahead of the curve of what's happening in the marketplace and the industry today and in the future. Number 3 would be books. Now, there's a guy out there who used to be around, and his name was Charlie Tremendous Jones. And Charlie always used to talk about, if you ask him how he was or how his day was or about something, he would always say, tremendous. And Charlie Tremendous Jones always talked about where you are and becoming more successful came down to 2 things: the books you read and the people you met. And so if you're going to read books, read as many books as you can. Some of you are going to say to me, I don't want to read now. Because, we're already tired of reading because of all the text messages, emails, proposals, white papers, and everything we have to read on a daily basis. So audiobooks is a great solution to that. So you can listen to those audiobooks as well when you're out exercising, when you're driving, on a train, transitioning to the office and home again, now that we're starting to do that again. Executive book summaries is another way whereby they can take a 300-page book and summarize it into 8 pages for you, so then you can actually read the nuggets of a book. If you're really keen to know more about the book, of course, you can go and buy the book or go and get the book and read all of it. Warren Buffett, very successful man, very successful in investing and so forth, and he always talks about reading every day, how he takes time out to read articles, white papers, books, as much as he can to help him stay ahead of gain the knowledge that he needs to grow as a person to understand what's happening in the industry. Number 4, something like a YouTube. There are speakers, videos, there's different topics you can go to, and you can learn from some really, really cool people. Number 5 would be memberships. Now, what do I mean by that? This is whereby you pay a monthly fee or an annual fee to be part of a membership, but you have access to a whole lot of different resources and possibly a community that can actually support you. Number 6 is masterminds, whereby a community can get together around a certain topic. We used to run one, and it used to be around the book Think and Grow Rich. And we used to, every week we would do a chapter and talk about it, what it means for people and so forth. Really, really cool. Also about accountability. There's all that side of things as well. Number 7, get yourself a coach or a mentor. Coach, mentor is going to help you with your clarity, with your thinking, stretch you, grow you, help you be the best that you can be. Number 8 is training events, whether they're online or face-to-face. Go to different providers and understand what they have available out there today around the topic that you're wanting to close a gap on. Maybe go and do some tertiary study, doing a master's or a degree, a master's or a PhD, maybe even doing some executive short courses. So some universities will hold residential executive short courses where you might be there for 5 days and you're there to learn about a certain topic and helping you develop as a leader. But I'm going to give you a bonus as well. This bonus is number 9. This bonus is nothing you can read, nothing you can listen to, but it's something that you do. And number 9, the bonus is you putting up your hand for opportunities, whether it be a project, an initiative, buying a business, starting a business, going to a new role, starting a new thing, transitioning into your next thing. Put your hand up and give it a go. This is actually going to help you grow because you see you're going to be out of your comfort zone. And when you're out of your comfort zone, that's when the magic happens. So I'm going to encourage you to put your hand up as many times as you can to volunteer and do things. Go ahead and take that job. Go ahead and do that thing that you probably have been a little bit concerned about or a little bit cautious about in the past. Hey, listeners, understand where you're going, understand where you need to develop yourself, and then also understand what you need to do or put in place to actually develop that yourself as a leader to help you become world-class and very effective. Hey, listeners, what we as leaders know to be true is that change is constant. Change is incredibly scary, especially with the unknown and unfamiliar territory. It's time to adapt in our fast-moving world when leadership is changing. Look out for the episodes as they're being released. Download them, have a listen, put a review and a rating. Feel free to share them with your friends, your family, and your network. Hey, if there's any feedback you'd like to give me about the show, or if there's a question you have for the Ask Denis Freestyle episode, then send me an email, dennis@leadingchangepartners.com. Hey, listeners, it's always a pleasure being with you. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, bye for now.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Leadership is Changing with your host, Denis Giannoutsas. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change, inspiring executives and leaders to adapt and lead a bigger game in a fast-moving world.